right, we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. I call this meeting of the Winthrop School Board to order. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We'll go ahead and start with our roll call. We do have two board members with prior engagements today. Tim has a meeting at the high school, and then we have Erin, who is doing a family meeting at her school where she works. And we do have both of our student representatives, so welcome. Are there any adjustments to the agenda this evening?
Yes, I would like to table 6.1, the nomination of the vice chair until the next board meeting when hopefully we'll have all the board members present.
Sounds like a plan. Thank you. Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the Winthrop School Board meeting of April 15th, 2026 as written.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Okay. That is a majority. The motion carries. Okay, and at this time, I will open it up to public comment. So if there are any folks in the room who'd like to speak, you guys may do so at the podium. And if there's anyone online, Megan, just let us know. Thank you. Yes, and please give us your name and your town.
Yep, I am Whitney Kahn. I'm a resident of Winthrop. I just want to share with you guys the last update that we had on the Maine Human Rights Commission lawsuit against several districts in Maine was that there was a motion filed to dismiss on behalf of the school districts. And I have with me a copy of the response from the Maine Human Rights Commission. In this, you can find their broad standing to sue on behalf of a class of people, meaning that there doesn't have to be an individual that has been harmed, as well as their response to preemption. So it's got a lot of good information. I wanted to drop it with Dr. Foley to share with you guys.
Thank you so much.
Hi, I'm Patrice Putman. I've spent a lot of time at that desk in the last, well, it's been a little while, but I probably spent 15 years around that desk for one reason or another. So I'm glad to be here in a different capacity. I am concerned about the potential policy around transgender students. So I don't know what you're going to do with that policy, but I'm very concerned about what I think is the direction of this board. And I have a few reasons. One, I don't believe it's ripe as far as I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not sure that there is a transgender student in the district at this time that you know of. Yes, no, I'm getting nothing, so I don't know.
So just to let you know, I do usually read a statement and I can certainly read it now, but this is not a time for conversation. So we usually just hear from the public.
Yes,
and we don't engage in conversation.
Yes, okay, and I didn't know. Anyway.
Yeah, of course.
Regardless, but if there is not a transgender student, then I wonder if this conversation is what we call ripe. And everybody knows the expression things are moot. That means they no longer apply. The issue has been decided, or there's not a person representing that. And also if there's not a person that is a transgender now, I wonder if it is legally ripe for discussion, because on the one hand it's policy, it's good to think about. On the other hand, we don't know if this will become a problem. And from a legal perspective, at least, I'm no longer a practicing attorney, but when I was, you didn't take things on unless they were ripe. and I don't know that this is. Another concern is that it's sending the wrong message. It's a message of discrimination and exclusion and not inclusion. And I hate for the town that I love to be considered a town of exclusion and discrimination instead of inclusion. That kind of hurts my heart. Now, there used to be a lot of discrimination. When we were growing up, we all know, and can remember the pictures of people who tried to keep blacks out of their school. Let's keep them out. And under Plessy v. Ferguson, that was the law for a lot of decades. And it was addressed in Brown v. Board of Education. And everybody knows,
Please,
Yeah.
may I just ask you to finish up? Each community member gets 3 minutes, and I apologize, I didn't.
you did not tell me that.
so,
Okay,
yeah.
so I'll just
I'll
take
give you
another-
a few moments to finish up.
So Brown v. Board of Education, I think you're all probably somewhat familiar with that. And it set up the rule that separate but equal is not equal. It's a discriminatory thing that our own Chief Justice, I think Warren, said separate but equal is inherently discriminatory. It promotes mental distance. And let me see if I can just find it, and I will just be a minute. The Chief Justice, Earl Warren, said separate educational facilities are inherently unequal, and went on to say that the psychological impact based on race or other things, I think, is harmful to our students. And so I would like you to not discriminate, because I think it is cruel. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. Do we have anyone online, Megan? Okay, perfect. We'll go ahead and close with our first public comment section. We'll have another one later in our meeting. And we'll enter into item 4, our reports, starting with our superintendent report by Dr. Foley.
Good evening. I'd first like to report that Stephen Descoulias will be resigning effective at the conclusion of this year. I want to thank you to those of the board who attended the town council meeting on Monday, April 27th. The council voted on the proposed 5.4% expenditure increase, and it passed by a 5-2 margin. So the next step in the process will be a community vote scheduled for June 10th, and I encourage the community to come out and vote and have your voice heard on that. With respect to the current fiscal year, we remain in a stable financial position and anticipate closing the year in June with a positive balance, potentially exceeding 2%. We currently have approximately $150,000 in undesignated fund balance from our last audit compared to the zero balance at this time last year from the previous year. So overall, our financial health continues to show gradual improvement, which I'm just very grateful for. The policy committee met on Tuesday to continue its review of policies related to the transgender students. And later in this meeting, I will address the questions raised at the previous board meeting regarding this policy and topic. I recently had the opportunity and pleasure to attend the Speakeasy event at the middle school, which celebrates student learning from the Harlem Renaissance. Additionally, I've been interviewed twice in recent weeks by 8th grade students working on their solutionary projects. And these projects involve identifying real-world problems and developing potential solutions. One group that interviewed me focused on gender equality, which I feel passionate about, while another is addressing adequate school funding, both very significant and complex issues, but it's so encouraging to see our students developing the skills and mindset needed to become thoughtful, engaged problem solvers in our society. And this week is Staff Appreciation Week across the district. I was pleased to visit with Megan White, the Director of Teaching and Learning, to visit each school and personally thank many of our staff members for their dedication and hard work. The staff of Winthrop Public Schools remain deeply committed to improving teaching and learning, and we are fortunate to have such a talented and dedicated team. And that concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Foley, for your report. Does the board have any questions or comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to the chair report. On April 17th, I had the opportunity to read to several grade school classrooms, Mrs. Blanco, Miss Dion, Mrs. Bailey's, and Mrs. Kavanaugh's classrooms. And I just thank the teachers and Mrs. Violet for the opportunity to share one of my favorite springtime books, Over the Pond, Under the Pond. And on the 21st, I was able to attend the Pi Day Sea Dogs game. I saw so many Winthrop students, which was really cool. It was also very cold that night. I had put away all of our winter gear and had to haul it back out, anticipating the cold weather. On the 27th, I attended with Dr. Foley the town council budget vote, and of course that passed, and that's really great news for our schools. And on the 30th, I was invited to attend the Winthrop Middle School Student of the Month Assembly, and it was nice to see so many students recognized for their achievements at that assembly. And I just want to congratulate Abby for being her class's valedictorian. And that concludes my report. So we'll go ahead and move on to the student representative report starting, and Gianni is going to give that to us tonight.
I don't have a ton today. The arts program is taking a field trip to Boston this Friday. They're going to go do a bunch of cool things. They're going to go, I think, see a play or some sort of event, which will be nice. Friday is also another tech-free Friday. AP testing began this Monday and it will be finished on Thursday. So we have a bunch of students involved in AP classes, which is great. Spring sports have gotten off to a great start. Baseball has had multiple dominant wins, and the track team has taken home multiple team wins. And tennis has started their season 4-0.
Excellent. Thank you, Gianni. Does the board have any questions or comments? Perfect. Okay. We will enter into our committee reports, starting with finance. Tim is usually the one presenting out, but it'll be me this evening. We do have our monthly meeting scheduled for May 20th at 4:30. And then policy. Was that Jason? Oh, Jason, sorry.
So we met 2 Tuesdays ago, took a look through the internet safety and going in front of the board for first reading today. We are still working on policies JB and ACR, and nothing further to report.
Thank you, Jason. And yep.
And our next scheduled policy meeting, because I know there have been some community members wanting to attend those, is scheduled for May 19th, but we discovered tonight we're going to need to do a reschedule. So we will figure that out hopefully tomorrow and then make sure that we communicate that out to the community.
Thank you, Dr. Foley. Thank you, Jason. The administrator report, negotiations. We're not meeting for negotiations. We've ratified everything. And so we will begin again next year in the fall. There are administrative reports. Do board members have any questions regarding those? And I know we were going to have Ms. Smell.
Yes, I'm going to have Ms. Principal Smell come up and just highlight a couple of the good things in her report and some things that are going on currently at the middle school.
The middle school is a very active place right now. We are doing lots. Several years ago, I brought in the idea of doing interdisciplinary units. And so now is the time that we are celebrating our learning. That's happening. As Dr. Foley said, we just had our 8th grade speakeasy, and that was a culminating event based on the Harlem Renaissance. But the teachers worked together, ELA, social studies, and music, and it was fabulous. And the 8th grade is continuing that with their Solutionaries project. We also have taken on digital storytelling. This 8th grade class came in, and when they were in 6th grade, they were learning about internet safety, and they were doing digital citizenship. And last year they did a little more with technology. And this year we've morphed it into digital storytelling. And unfortunately, one of our presenters, he's out sick. And then the other presenter chose not to come today. But they were going to show you, they've been learning and exploring different ways to tell stories through animation. So they've looked at the history of like Walt Disney and Mickey Mouse and how he did it all the way to The Nightmare Before Christmas. And they have seen the impact of using mathematics with it all and their literacy and how to take this activity and their learning and make a culminating activity. They created a short animation which tells a fun story, or to create to show strong feelings through animation without words. So they have mountain ranges with birds flying and just wonderful, wonderful things. They did an amazing job. They worked literally hours of outside and inside class time for a 10 to 30 second film. When they finished and they showed their finished project, they went, it's only that long? Because they worked really, really hard. So that's pretty exciting. So I know the high school folks, Ms. Shaw will be very excited to have these kiddos coming up. Another piece of celebration is our Miss Peters. Elizabeth Peters is one of our ELA teachers. She, outside of school, has been very active in Winthrop town politics and other things. But several years ago, she realized that there was a need for our Indigenous population. They didn't have the rights or access to things, to our state parks. She actually co-wrote and sponsored a bill. It's LD 114. And it's an act to allow Indigenous peoples free access to state parks. And she was invited by the governor to come to the bill signing. Senator Craig Hickman was there, Tavis Hassenfuss. They were all there together. And Ms. Peters was very excited and proud to be a part of that. So it was really nice to see one of our teachers celebrated on the House floor. Any other questions? We have our 2 other celebrations of learning coming up next 2 weeks, the 19th and the 20th. We have our 6th graders doing weather, and because they do the ancient world, we're talking about weather in the Mediterranean, and we're doing lots of fun things, incorporating everything. So please come if you want to visit the middle school on that day. And then the next day, 7th grade is doing growth. They're talking about gardens and business and personal growth, and they're doing their celebration of learning. 6th grade is at 8 o'clock and 7th grade is at 9:15, I believe, or vice versa. But those days, and it's on our website. Any other questions about my report?
Any questions from the board? Comments?
You're welcome.
Okay, sounds wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay. Does the board have any questions or comments regarding any other administrator reports? Okay, perfect. Moving on to old business by Dr. Foley, there'll be a superintendent's response to the community questions from the April 15th school board meeting.
And I'm hoping that in the board's packet that you have a copy of the questions and answers, because it's a lot of information and I decided maybe you would like a hard copy of that. All right. So basically, I'm just going to go through the questions and then give you the responses that I have for these. The first question is, what is your estimate of the cost to defend an MHRC lawsuit, and what line item in the current budget covers it? And so I really have no idea of what that will cost, but it would not surprise me if a lawsuit would exceed, $50,000. Currently, as some of you know, our insurance will cover the first $250,000 for all the districts being sued. Thus far, I did check on this, and $30,000 has been spent from that pool. So there's now $230,000 remaining in that fund for any district that gets sued, and the oral arguments are being heard this summer in the lawsuit. We have a line in the budget in Article 6 called System Administration Professional Legal Services. This is the line any legal expenses would be charged to that are connected to any type of Title IX legal expenses. During this current year, this was another question of how much do we have budgeted. We currently have $35,000 budgeted in the legal fees, and next year we did budget $50,000. Currently, of the budget year that we're in, we have spent $1,694, has been spent in consultation with attorneys on advising the board and revising the Title IX policies. The next question is, what is your estimate of the exposure from individual family lawsuits identified as a separate cost vector, and what has this board budgeted for those suits and their associated penalties not covered by insurance? We did not budget anything in this current year or in next year's for this. And this could be, of course, depending on how many families sued, you know, that you could easily go into the hundreds of thousands of dollars in a lawsuit. And so the next question was, if nothing is budgeted, where does the money come from? We currently have $100,000 in the capital improvement reserve account, and that really is for if all of a sudden a boiler breaks and we hadn't budgeted for that. We do have $100,000, which we hope to build that up in the future, but that's what we have there now. We would probably have to look into transferring that over if needed to the legal service line under system administration. That would take a vote probably from the board and the town council for that. After that, we would have to probably freeze the budget, not fill any positions that might become vacant during the current school year. Has this board consulted with Excel Indian Harbor to confirm that defense costs will not be excluded under any intentional acts provisions of the district's policy, given that this board has proceeded after being advised on the record that it violates Maine law? So my understanding of this is that after the $250,000 is used up, we are on our own. But other districts that are currently being sued have gone against their defense counsel, and the insurance company is still allowing them to access the $250,000. And in those proceedings, they have had to contract with different law firms than what they currently use. I mean, currently, the majority of districts in the state of Maine use Drummond, Woodsum, or Brian Isaacson. Thank you. Yeah. Brand. All right. So the next question was, which policies are being created, revised, or repealed? We reviewed at a previous policy meeting, policy ACAA, student discrimination harassment, ACAAR, which is the complaint procedures, ACAB, harassment and sexual harassment, and ACABR, and that are the complaint procedures. Those policies since my time here have gone through a lot of revisions because we were under the previous administrations and we adopted policies. And then last year, when the new administration went in, we adopted policies again. So when we most recently reviewed those at the policy committee, I did not see anything that needed to be revised because of the current discussion about transgender rights. So right now we are working on creating a policy that conforms to the board's directive, which in my most recent consultation with Drummond Woodsum will be called ACDC, and we will label it accommodation of privacy based on biological sex. So that's what I'll be presenting at the next policy meeting to the policy committee. If ACDC is adopted by the board, then we would recommend rescinding JB, which is what we currently have for transgender guidelines, as we would not need dual policies. Then the next question was, which consultants, companies, firms, and organizations has the school board and/or district been in contact with as it relates to changing school policy? So there really have been 4 groups that have been contacted. The Steve Smith Trial Lawyers, Drummond Woodsum, the Maine Education Initiative, and the Maine School Management Association, MSMA. And then the last question was if any outside organizations have been in contact with the school board or district offering to assist in covering the cost of litigation on behalf of the school district. And there thus far has been no offer to cover our legal fees that I'm aware of.
Thank you, Dr. Foley. Does the board have any questions or comments?
I would just say, I continue to stand strong in the fact that we need to wait and not create changes to this policy. And I think these numbers are pretty staggering and concerning that we would drag our school district into this. So I would continue to ask the board to wait on these policy changes and see what happens in November so that we are not doing this to our district.
Thank you, Libby. Any other questions or comments? Jason?
Sorry about that. I got to stop pushing this thing up. So you had mentioned the insurance for all the all the districts that are in the lawsuit currently. Is that $250,000 that covers each of the schools, or is it as an aggregate $250,000 covering all those?
So thank you for asking that clarifying question. That is a finite pool. And now it has 230,000. And when it's gone, it's gone. So if there are, I think there are 8 districts currently being sued. But if that expands to 20, well, then, it's that pool just exists until the money's gone. And right now I can say that there are currently 2 law firms that are accessing that. And one is the law firm that helped the board with their board learning on that one night, which is the Smith. And I know that RSU 52, I think, is going with Brand and no, I don't think, no. I think it's Skelton Tainer. Yeah. So there are 2 different firms that are currently, spending down that money.
Any other questions from the board? Okay, thank you, Dr. Foley.
You're welcome.
Okay, moving on to new business, 6.2. I'll entertain a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation to move the first-year probationary teachers to first and second-year probationary status, and the list is attached in our packet.
So moved.
Thank you, Jason.
Seconded.
Thank you, Libby. Commentary? We're good.
I'm good.
Okay, perfect. And all those in favor? Thank you. That motion carries. I'll entertain a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation to move the second-year probationary teachers to continuing contract status.
So moved.
Seconded.
Good on discussion? Okay,
Good.
all those in favor? Okay. Unanimous, that motion carries as well. Item 4.6.4, I'll entertain a motion to approve the following policies for first reading: IJNDB, Internet Safety for Winthrop Public Schools; IJNDB-R, Student Computer and Internet Use Rules; and Policy GBI, Staff Gifts and Solicitations.
So moved.
Seconded.
And I'll have Megan White come up to the microphone to explain kind of the changes in IJNDB and -R, and then I'll talk a little bit about GBI.
Good evening. So you can see the first policy that you folks are presented with tonight, IJNDB. We're actually looking at naming it what it should be named. So the name is going to change from Internet Safety for Winthrop Public Schools to Student Computer and Internet Use. And that is an overhaul on that policy. The policy that Winthrop has adopted is from 2012. So we're looking at a 14-year-old technology policy. So just quickly, the old policy included a whole section on definitions, some of which are not super applicable nowadays to technology. And it really did focus specifically on internet safety. And the movement in the new policy is that it's not just the safety, but the expectations for internet use. And the policy sets up the second policy you're looking at tonight, which is actually the rules aligned to that. So I'll talk about some changes there. So we did do a crosswalk and some of the biggest changes, you can see, I'll just walk you through them, is Section A was computer use is a privilege, not a right. We moved that, or I removed that, and made a entire Section B called Consequences for the Violation of Computer Use Policy and Rules, so that it includes some of the same material in it, but it also adds in that if required, there will be a referral to law enforcement, and it also clarifies that the final decision for device use falls on the principal. So if a student is going to lose access to anything, the principal has the say of that. In the next section, prohibited uses, you're going to see an addition that happens under each of those items, which is that the school unit assumes no responsibility for illegal use of the students accessing something illegal on the laptop. So that protects the district. The suggestion was to add this to each of these items, and our old policy actually had one section that just stated this once, and in the MSMA suggested policy was to add it to each item where it would be applicable. Moving on, there is a whole section of additions. It is the new I, and it is additional rules for laptops issued to students. And these include some of the items that are removed from the following sections. They're a little bit more succinct. It includes information for parents and guardians around their responsibilities for the device outside of school. It outlines that there must be an annual return. And it includes the process for parents and guardians doing an annual signature and being aware that there might be costs associated with damages or losses from the devices. And then the final piece, the section on network etiquette was removed. Those are all things that are important. They should be in our handbooks. They should be things we're teaching to students, but they don't really belong in a rule set policy. And then enforcement and parental permission were added into the previous section on additional laptop rules. This one also was from 2012.
Thank you, Megan. Does the board have any questions regarding this particular policy? Okay. Thank you.
So the biggest change on the staff gifts and solicitations, which is GBI, is just that we're allowing gifts to be given to teachers and other employees up to $100, a nominal value of $100. This hasn't been reviewed since 2013. It's been 13 years, and at that time it was $50.
Any questions from the board regarding that?
No, I would just add, we decided that because it's hard to tell like how much something is now. So like, I know $100 seems like a lot, but it's just really to protect the teacher of like, they don't know how much something costs necessarily. So.
Thank you, Libby.
That makes sense to me. Okay. Sounds good. Okay. So all of those in favor of these policy changes? Perfect. That's unanimous. The motion carries. And item 6.5, I'll entertain a motion for consideration and approval to employ a special education director for the 2026 to 2027 school year as recommended by the hiring committee.
So moved.
Seconded.
So I am pleased and excited to recommend Kim Gurney, who is here tonight, to the board as the next Special Education Director of Winthrop Public Schools. Kim will complete her master's at the University of Maine at Farmington this summer and brings 12 years of experience in education, including the past 3 years serving right here in Winthrop as our behavior interventionist. Kim was the unanimous choice of the hiring committee, reflecting her strong qualifications, leadership potential, and commitment to student success. As one of her references noted, she is an exceptional teacher who truly puts children first. And I am confident that this same dedication and student-centered approach will define her work as our next special ed director. So we're excited to support Kim in this next step of her professional journey and look forward to the positive impact that she'll have on our students, staff, and community.
Thank you, Dr. Foley. And all those in favor? Wonderful. Welcome to
And
the board. Oh,
yes, and I am happy to have Kim come up and just say a few words.
I just want to say how excited I am and really honored to have this opportunity. I have loved working for the Winthrop Public School System for the past 3 years, and I'm so really honored and excited for this next step in my journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim.
thank you. Welcome aboard.
Mhm.
Okay, item 6.6, I'll entertain a motion to approve the high school's cross-country team's overnight field trip to Camp Kawani in Weld, Maine on August 20th through the 21st, 2026.
So moved.
Seconded.
And we have Mr. Van Tassel here tonight. Would you come to the podium and just tell us a few words about this great opportunity you're providing to our students?
Yeah. First of all, just thank you so much for everyone's service on the board. It's a lot of hours, not a lot of pay. We appreciate what you're doing. So we've been taking a camping trip for 10 plus years. And it is a great opportunity to get the team together, to get away from technology, to set some goals for the season. We do a hike. We go to Mount Blue State Park. We've recently switched from the state campgrounds to a private camp. They've been very accommodating to us, don't charge us a lot, and are very happy to be helping a local team out. So thank you so much for considering it, and we're looking forward to going. Any questions?
Okay,
You're very welcome. Thank you.
all those in favor? Perfect, that's unanimous. That motion carries as well. Have so much fun. Okay, at this time, we have item 7. That's our second public comment section. If there are folks who are in the room who'd like to speak, we ask that you step up to the podium. And this time I will remember to read my script. The board welcomes your thoughts during public comment portion of our agenda, and we value your feedback and want to hear your comments and questions. Members of the public may speak on any subject directly related to the operations of the schools, except for personnel matters or complaints concerning specific employees or students. Those should be addressed through the established policies and procedures. Comments by individuals are limited to a maximum of 3 minutes at a meeting. Comments will be addressed to the board chair. This is not a time for the board or superintendent to engage in discussion or to respond to questions or concerns. Requests for information or concerns that require future research or follow-up may be referred to Dr. Foley. Speakers are expected to follow the rules of common courtesy and refrain from engaging in disruptive, combative, or disrespectful conduct. And so we just ask that you cite your name and your location.
My name is Whitney Kahn. I'm a Winthrop resident and parent of a child in Winthrop Public Schools. I have further questions that I would like addressed in regards to the directive given on March 4th to revise policies affecting transgender individuals. I have heard some members claim that, some board members claim that the change is necessary due to the removal of Title IX expansions adopted under the Biden administration. Why is the board creating new policies rather than simply returning to the policies that were in place prior to August of 2024 when those expansions were adopted? Policy JB has been in place for nearly 8 years. 6 of those years were alongside the original Title IX before the federal expansion. Why aren't you reverting back to the policies that observe both federal Title IX and Maine Human Rights Act simultaneously? Has the board completed the fiscal impact analysis required by policy BGR, including the anticipated costs of implementing, enforcing, and monitoring the proposed policy and the potential effects on students, staff, and the community? When will that analysis be made available to the public? The MPA's Gender Identity Participation Policy, Article 2, Section 12, governs all member schools, including Winthrop. Has this board obtained documentation from the MPA confirming that Winthrop will still be permitted to participate in interscholastic activities if the proposed policies are adopted? As a parent and a community member, I would like proof that you will not be inadvertently excluding all children from participation. As a taxpayer, I request that this board provide documentation from the district's legal counsel stating their neutral position on this policy, their recommendation, and their estimate of legal exposure to the district and taxpayers as a result of MHRC litigation and individual lawsuits. And if you will not provide this, why? Board members have repeatedly referenced the Department of Justice lawsuit against the State of Maine Department of Education as justification for this policy directive. This assertion is inaccurate. The Department of Justice lawsuit does not apply at the district level. Can any board member identify a single documented active legal threat directed specifically at Winthrop Public Schools? And if so, what? How does this policy address the increasing loss of teacher positions and continuing stringent budget? What steps have you taken to evaluate the impact this policy will have on teacher and staff morale and retention? And why was this addressed at a time when the budget should have been the focus?
Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Julie McFarland. I'm a Winthrop resident and I have 2 students at Winthrop Grade School. I wanted to address the response to the community questions and just clarify that I had also come up with to this mic at one of the meetings and had asked if having that updated policy, or what we now know will be called ACDC policy, would only be restricting Winthrop students and how it impacted our collaborations with other schools. I didn't hear that answer. And if it had been shared at a different meeting, I apologize. I just hadn't heard. And I would still be very curious if the adoption of a ACDC policy would only then still restrict our students and have no effect on the students we allow to play on from our other teams. My next question was related to the several schools in the lawsuit where the collective pool is $250,000. And we have not yet joined the lawsuit that we will inevitably be put into once we potentially rescind JB and adopt ACDC. That $30,000 has already been spent, which would leave $220,000, not $230,000. If I would hear that correctly.
Thank you.
So that's not a lot of money these days. And we're not even in the lawsuit, and 8 towns already are, 8 school districts that is. Dr. Foley shared that our school has already paid out approximately $1,600 in consultations or legal fees, et cetera. And she also did not explain how many hours you have spent in preparations of the questions we've had, the follow-up meeting you had when this came into motion when it wasn't properly put on the agenda ahead of time. That was 2 hours you shared that day, that meeting, that you spent 2 hours of your time clarifying that misconduct had occurred and what to do next. And then it's just, we cut positions, and you said we'd have to, if we go beyond the amount you're budgeting, which you already increased for next year in preparation for a lawsuit we'd be put into. And yet we cut positions. And we didn't fund things. Or if we need to, we're going to cut out things of like fixing the boiler. I want our students to have proper heat in their classrooms. I have spent the last 3.5 weeks collecting Hannaford Help School codes, and I have scanned $5,000 for the Winthrop Grade School, because every day I go there and I collect their extra codes because we want our schools to have the things they need. So why are we getting into this? Please,
Julie, I just
policy,
asked that
yes.
you
Policy
wrap up.
committee,
Thank you.
please vote to not change this policy until the vote has happened. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Again, I'm Patrice Putman, and I would like to support the comments of the previous speaker. I just, aside from my personal feelings that this is a mean thing to do, discrimination is always mean, and that we don't want to go back to a separate but equal world. I would say spending or even allocating $30,000 to $50,000 of our town money for a problem that doesn't exist is crazy. So why are we spending $30,000 to $50,000 on a problem that we do not have? So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Either way.
Hello, my name is Amy Griswold. I am a member, Winthrop resident, and I have students in both the middle school and elementary school. So couple things that I heard tonight, just wanted to touch base on. Dr. Foley, you mentioned that we have a surplus for the first time since last year, which is obviously fantastic, but would love to get an understanding of where that surplus is coming from, especially as we know that we have had to eliminate teachers, especially in the elementary school, which means that we do have larger classroom sizes. I do have a first grader, and we did go from having about 14 or 16 kids in her class to about 21 or 22. That is a big jump for some of those kids, especially as some of them are struggling with some transitions. So would like to have a better understanding of where that surplus is coming from. Also, it was mentioned that the budget for next year is increasing an additional 5.4%. And part of that being to increase the amount that could be spent on funds due to lawsuits. I just go back to that surplus that we have that could be depleted almost instantaneously if we are looking to increase that surplus, as well as increase capital expenditures, which we have, you indicated about $100,000 of that now. If we're looking to increase that, utilizing those funds towards a lawsuit that doesn't need to be brought into our school is not going to help us get to that next step of getting those funds available to us. I'd like to joke that we have to save some of our snow days for our school broke days. My kids have been in the school, the elementary school, for the last 6 years. And every year we have had to have a day off from school because something has broken. There was one April after spring break that the school came back and their boiler was not working and they were without heat for an entire week. We've had issues with water sources and other issues in a very old building. So I'd love to not use those funds for a frivolous lawsuit or a lawsuit that doesn't need to be happening, and actually use them to support the schools that we have.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Beth DeRocher, and I'm a Winthrop resident and a parent of a child in the schools. I would like to bounce off of that and say, yes, let's use our money more wisely. It occurred to us that as far as the Maine Human Rights Commission lawsuit, one of the defendants in that case has adopted an ACDC policy. And the documents are available on courts.maine.gov for verification. So our ACDC policy is not going to insulate us from litigation. It does not keep us from wasting funds, which we could use to educate kids instead of whatever this thing we're doing is. So thank you and good evening.
Thank you so much. Anyone online, Megan? Okay. It looks like we are all done with our public comments. So I will turn it over to our school board members or our student representatives for any of their comments. or additions to future agendas?
I would just again add that the public questions deserve answers. And so adding those to future agendas. Sorry, Dr. Foley, because this continues to fall on you to have to research and bring that information forth. But these are valid questions that deserve answers. And the answers that have been brought forth thus far do not support creating change to this policy. So I just asked this board, how long are we going to ignore these community members that are bringing forth these concerns while we sit here and not appropriately represent them, which is our job. So it's very disheartening.
Thank you, Libby. Anyone else? Okay. We will close the public or the school board comments, and we have an executive session this evening. So we invite all of those who have been asked to stay behind for that they stay behind, and those who are not may leave. Oh, so there's no action taken after. This is for, okay, perfect. So we'll do the motion and then we'll just have folks leave. So this is an executive session. I'll entertain a motion to enter into executive session to review the evaluation of the superintendent pursuant to 1 MRSA 4056A.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, and all those in favor? That's unanimous. Perfect.
Thank you.